This is a Bloomberg scoop basically saying that China will have tariffs, or were half tariffs on $75 billion goods coming from the U.S. This is what implementation of what was in the Phase 1 trade deal.
Exactly. So I think what we're seeing is the market really sort of breathe a sigh of relief that although this deal was signed 3 weeks ago yesterday, there hasn't been a lot of comments from China about the follow-through that they were expected to do. Obviously, they're fighting this health crisis, and markets have been kind of anticipating, China's follow through in things like purchases of commodities and so on. But I think what we're seeing today is, China, following through. This will be a good sign to the administration. They'll look at, China as holding the pledges that they made. So overall, I think the market is really just breathing a sigh of relief.
Brent, talk me through this because I can't really figure out. So there's something called force majeure, right? So was this something in the clause that is, if there's a natural disaster, then they don't have to comply, or do the Chinese hope that because of the coronavirus, the U.S. go easier on them? Well,
I think it's probably the latter. It was signed January 15th. It actually doesn't take effect until mid-February. So, the fact that China is now making moves to follow up are really good ones. I think what the Chinese, the signals that we're getting from the Chinese are that they are going to be looking for some flexibility. That there is a sort of escape clause for unexpected events. That can kind of cut them some slack, and we'll see if that happens over the next coming days.
Andrew, how bad is this for, A, for China, and 2, for the world economy? It's early days, and I know the situation is very fluid, so I know it's a difficult question.
Yeah, that's the interesting piece, is just how much will impact Q1. Yeah. Everyone's looking at SARS, looking at swine flu, looking at Ebola, and trying to transfer that across and say, well, is this just one quarter and then we bounce back in the second quarter? I think if you look at market reaction in the last couple of days, it seems like markets are saying, okay, so this is going to be contained. They're already looking beyond this, and I think the moves that Brendan was talking about by the Chinese authorities is positive. They obviously cut rates as well, modestly, but still cut rates a couple of days ago. So it does seem that, they're taking steps, not just to contain the virus itself, but also to provide some liquidity and stimulus into the economy.
But is the market wrong to react like that? I mean, it's almost like nothing ever happened.
I think it's too early to tell. There's still, of course, a long way to go. And as your correspondent was talking about, there's going to be more deaths, unfortunately, and certainly the number of people infected is going to rise. We really don't know. It's just speculation as to how much further it is. I think markets certainly seem to be discounting a pretty mild situation here, so not a huge increase from here. So clearly I would say today maybe the risks are more skewed to the downside, and that is that actually maybe things are going to be a little worse. But it's speculation.
Brendan, if the U.S. were to be a bit more flexible with China because they need the Chinese economy not to collapse, do we know what they would do in terms of trade?
I think
make it a bit easier.
They would cut them a little slack on the the size of the purchases that they pledged to. Already economists are looking at those estimates and saying they're not feasible anyway. So there could be some scaling down of the things like soybean purchases and other agricultural commodities. One of the big sort of wild cards is does Donald Trump, is he feeling sympathetic in an election year to go easy on a big trading rival like China when he ran in 2016 against the impact of China. So we'll see.
But does the virus not change everything?
You would think it would. Obviously, if it becomes it grows outside of a regional problem and becomes a global economic drag, then sure, you would think that there would be some consideration for that.